Welcome to the Invest More and Stress More channel, and today we're going to be talking about investing in silver and gold and other precious metals. Not only are we going to be teaching you guys how to invest into silver, gold, and other precious metals, but we're going to be teaching you guys why and the history of behind U.S. currency and the history of behind gold, silver, precious metals, the U.S. dollar, the reason why we invest into precious metals and other commodities. With that being said, let's get right into it. So right here we're on cmigoldsilver.com, a bullion dealer, and we're going to be looking at an article, The History of American Money. If we want to learn anything about making money, then we need to learn about money. So today that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So let me go over this with y'all. The history of American money. During the Revolutionary War, two things almost led to the defeat of the struggle for American independence. One was the inadequate system of constitutional government, and the other was unsound money. Congress issued about $240 million in Continentals, referring to money of the Continental Congress. It was understood that the money would be redeemed in gold or silver by the states after the war. The states thought that this was a great way to manufacture money, so they issued vast quantities of their own paper currency. The British saw what was happening, so they printed up bales of counterfeit Continentals and used them to buy supplies from Americans. Before long, confidence in the Continentals had sunk so low that by 1780, they were not even worth 1 cent. No further paper money was issued by the United States for over 80 years. I hope you guys are still walking with me because it's about to get deep right here. So keep holding my hand. Paper currency. We have already noted that there are two kinds of paper currency which are not money but circulate as such. The first is debt money, which can be redeemed in silver and gold on demand, and the other is fiat, paper money, which is designated as legal tender but cannot be redeemed for anything. As indicated earlier, the original draft of the Constitution authorized Congress to emit bills of credit. This had reference to debt money, or currency which would be redeemed with gold or silver. After an extensive discussion, the founders decided they couldn't risk it. There would be no United States debt currency or bills of credit. As for fiat money, this was so abhorrent to the founders they didn't even discuss it. As mentioned earlier, the founders knew that people do not like to conduct business, except for minor transactions with precious metal. Metal money is too heavy, too bulky, and in substantial amounts is dangerous to transport. It is much more convenient and safe to use paper currency. The founders realized this, but expected the banks to issue notes, redeemable in gold or silver, which would fill this need. Over the objections of Jefferson and Madison, Alexander Hamilton persuaded Congress to approve a United States bank for a period of 20 years. This was actually a private bank, but it functioned as a depository for the United States and collected taxes. It also issued redeemable banknotes, which circulated as currency. Other private banks did the same. By 1798, Alexander Hamilton decided that this procedure was a mistake. He felt that if currency or banknotes were to be issued and circulated as money, it should have been done by Congress. Unfortunately, no steps were taken to remedy this problem. So by the time of the Civil War, there were thousands of banks issuing thousands of different kinds of banknotes. Furthermore, many banks were issuing far more notes than they had reserves. There was also a tremendous amount of counterfeiting. Before long, the whole system began to falter. When the Civil War required vast new expenditures, the banks wanted extremely high rates of interest on any loans to the Union, 15 to 36%, and so Congress felt compelled to issue fiat money. These greenbacks could not be redeemed in gold or silver and were limited somewhat in the things for which they could be spent. Their value soon dropped to around 35 cents. Finally, in 1878, Congress promised to redeem the greenbacks in gold. This changed the greenbacks from cheap fiat money to debt money, redeemable at face value. At first, there was a run on gold as people traded in their greenbacks. But when they found they could really get the gold, then people didn't want it. They returned the gold to the bank and took back paper money instead. This left the United States on the gold standard until 1933. Meanwhile, Congress phased out the banknotes issued by state banks by putting a tax on them, thereby discouraging their use. In 1863 to 64, Congress passed a series of national bank acts which set up a system of privately owned banks chartered by the federal government. These national banks issued notes backed by the U.S. government bonds, and these national banknotes became the country's chief currency. When the greenbacks received gold backing in 1878, they also moved up to a par value with the national banknotes. In 1913, the Federal Reserve replaced the national bank system, and Federal Reserve notes were issued with a promise to redeem them in gold on demand. Then, in the year 1933, the United States abandoned the gold standard. These were the circumstances. On April 5th, 1933, 1 month after his inauguration, President Franklin D. Roosevelt declared a national emergency and ordered all gold coins, gold bullion, and gold certificates to be turned into the Federal Reserve banks by May 1st. This order applied only to those residing in the United States. It did not apply to foreigners living aboard within the United States. Only those who had special gold collections or needed the gold for industrial or professional use were allowed to retain quantities of the yellow metal. 2. As gold coins, gold bullion, or gold certificates were turned in, the American people received Federal Reserve notes redeemable in silver. 3. On May 22nd, 1933, Congress enacted a law declaring all coin and currencies then in circulation to be legal tender, dollar for dollar, as if they were gold. It also empowered the president to reduce the gold content of the dollar up to 50%. On June 5th, 1933, Congress enacted a joint resolution that all gold clauses in contracts were outlawed and no one could legally demand gold in payment for any obligation due him. Now, I know this seems like a lot to take in, but I hope y'all keep walking with me because I'm going to break it down for you and simplify it and tell you exactly why and exactly how to invest in these things and why you should be. And nonetheless, throughout the video, you should be learning why right now, as long as you're holding my hand. I hope y'all still walking with me because here we go. On January 30th, 1934, the Gold Reserve Act was passed, giving the Federal Reserve title to all the gold which had been collected. This also changed the price of gold from $20.67 per ounce to $35 per ounce, which meant that all of the silver certificates the people had recently received for their gold now lost 40% of their value. The next day, the president proclaimed that the dollar was to be fixed at 15 and 5/21 grains of standard gold and was to be maintained at this level in perpetuity. This is still the definition of the dollar in the United States Code. Russia and the central banks of Europe began buying up gold in huge quantities. Thus, there came into being a dual monetary system, a gold standard for foreigners and Federal Reserve notes, redeemable in silver for Americans. From 1914 to 1973, American currency went through the following erosion. I want you guys to really pay attention right here. I want y'all to really pay attention, and then I'm going to go through everything that we read, and I'm going to break it down in case y'all can't understand exactly what they're saying. I'm going to break it down in a more simple format. 1. From 1914 to 1933, every Federal Reserve note was redeemable in gold and silver. 2. Between 1933 and 1963, all Federal Reserve notes promised to pay or be redeemed in lawful money, which meant silver. Then the wording on the Federal Reserve notes began to be changed to somewhat obscure language, which should have given Americans a warning that the government was planning something. 3. In 1965, President Lyndon Johnson authorized the Treasury to begin issuing debased sandwich dimes and quarters with little or no intrinsic value, and the quantity of silver in 50-cent pieces was reduced to 40%. On June 24, 1968, President Johnson issued a proclamation that henceforth Federal Reserve silver certificates were merely fiat legal tender and could not be redeemed in silver. On December 31, 1970, President Richard Nixon authorized the Treasury to issue debased sandwich dollars and half dollars. 6. By August 1971, many of the European countries had collected so many billions in Eurodollars, foreign aid money spent by the U.S. military abroad, etc., that European banks had begun to get nervous about redeeming their money in gold. A threatened run on the U.S. Treasury resulted in the American gold window be slammed shut. This resulted in collapse of the dollar on the world market. Since then, it has fluctuated on the world market like any other commodity. Since it is no longer redeemable in precious metal and therefore has no intrinsic value, the fiat paper currency, the Federal Reserve notes we use all the time today, has no intrinsic value. In 1973, the US dollar was officially devalued, changing the price of gold from $35 per ounce to $42.23 per ounce. On March 16, 1973, Congress set the American dollar completely afloat with nothing to back it up but the declaration of the government that it was legal tender or fiat currency. 9. The world market immediately reflected serious erosion in the value of the American dollar. To buy an ounce of the gold, it took not $42.23, but $100, then $200. After that, it moved higher and higher until it required $800 to buy an ounce of gold. Gradually, some confidence was restored in the dollar as the symbol of the American economy, and so it settled back down to a plateau of approximately 300 plus. That is far from what gold is right now, if you guys know. Listen to this. Today, the American economy operates under a monetary system which is completely outside the Constitution. Its fiat money is continually manipulated both in value and quantity. This has had a devastating impact on its purchasing power, which is now down to about 8% of its 1933 value. It has eroded the value of savings, insurance policies, retirement funds, and the fixed incomes of the elderly. So why am I telling y'all to invest in gold and silver? Why? Well, if you paid attention, you would obviously know why. The money that we're using today, the Federal Reserve notes that aren't backed by anything, have no intrinsic value. They have no value. They're not backed by anything. It's not real money. Cash is garbage, you feel me? If you got cash sitting around, turn that shit into silver and gold. And a big reason why I invest in silver and gold myself, not just from the studies, but from personal experience. So my pops, when I was younger, right before I was born in the year 2000. I'm 20 years old. So right before I was born, my pops was thinking about buying, let me pull this up. My pops was thinking about buying some gold. In 1998, gold was about, I want to say, $240. By the time I was born in the year 2000, gold had shot up to a high, gold had shot up to a high of $400. At the time, my dad didn't want to buy in because gold was too high. In the year 2020, gold just hit over $2,000 per ounce for the first time ever. So say my pops would have bought 100 ounces of gold at $400 an ounce at the year 2000, he would have spent $40,000. And then that same 100 ounces of gold today would be worth $200,000. Now, the reason I tell you guys to invest into gold and silver now is for the future. So right here, so if my pops would have spent $40,000, if my pops would have spent $40,000 in the year 2000 on gold, he would be looking at $200,000 right here. Now, if my pops would have kept that same $40,000 and just held on to it, cash money, Federal Reserve notes, fiat currency, it'll still be worth just $40,000. But if he would have spent that money in gold, then it'll be worth $200,000. So a big reason why I invest in gold and silver is for my future, for my kids' future. This year, silver was at a low of $17. It went up to $31, shot back down to about $22. That's around the time I bought I bought a lot of silver. Been starting to learn a little bit about silver. I'm almost up to 100 ounces right here in my collection, which is a little over $2,000 worth of silver, which isn't much, but I'm gonna keep building it. I'm gonna keep collecting it. Why? Because silver is real money. When the Federal Reserve notes could be transferred for something, what were they transferred for? Silver and gold, precious metals, real money. What the Constitution operates under. What we're operating under today is unconstitutional. $40,000 will always be $40,000. But $40,000 worth of gold in 2000 is now worth $200,000. So if I spend $40,000 right now on gold or silver, then imagine what it can be worth in 20 years. So when you're investing, you also got to think long haul. Everybody want that short-term return. Everybody want that, I put my money in, I get my money right back. You got to think about, people that are rich amass wealth over time. You're not going to get rich quick. If you want to amass wealth, you got to do these types of things. You got to invest in these types of things. So say a silver coin right now, you can go down at the coin dealership, local coin gallery, whatever. You can buy silver for right now, a couple bucks over spot price. They'll sell it. Say silver's at $25 right now in spot. I'm pretty sure it is. So they'll sell you a coin, silver coin, 1 ounce for $28. Well, silver's maxed out at $50 in 2011. So no matter what, if I spend, even if I'm buying silver at $37, it's not about the price that you buy it at, but it's about how much you have when you're looking to get a return. And you look to get these returns when they spike. And when do gold and precious metals spike? When the economy crashes. The economy may crash right now with this pandemic and things going on harder than ever. It's already crashing. The only reason the stock market and shit is staying afloat is because the government's just giving out $1 billion loans, $100 million loans like it's nothing. They just passing out money to keep the stock market stable. These companies are crashing, this economy's crashing, and it's gonna happen real soon. And you either gonna eat with me and invest in the right stuff, or you gonna get left behind. It's your choice. I'll see y'all next time.